Debate 411 is proudly brought to you by Mount Kenya University School of Journalism. Success in journalism starts here. Enroll for Master of Arts in Communication and Mass Media, Bachelor of Arts in Mass Media and Communication, Diploma in Journalism. Take advantage of fees reduction and modularized programs in line with Rwanda National Qualification Framework. Call 0787 05 2363 or 0788 979113 or 0728 551199 or visit our website www.mku.ac.ke.
Right, the alarms have gone on, and of course, if you haven't loaded your airtime and you do not have your internet bundles, load them right about now, because we are live and ready to have this very, very important conversation. And my name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. This is Debate 411. We're here Monday and Wednesday from 9 p.m. And of course, the hashtag to use is hashtag Debate 411. For tonight's show, we're using the hashtag End Sexual Corruption RW. And of course, the most important thing we want to do in this conversation tonight is to get the experience out there for those who have gone through this, or if you know a relative, a friend, or someone close to you who has gone through this, would love to hear from your experience and how can we end this particular corruption type. And of course, on set with me is none other than Ibtihal Arafat. Thank you for joining us on Debate 411. Also with us is Charity from the Office of the Ombudsman. Thank you for joining us on the program. With us also is none other than Judith from the Rwanda Law Reform Commission. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very
and
much.
From Transparency International, how can we talk about corruption issues without having you on board? Thank you so much for joining us, Madam Francine.
Thank you very much.
Right, it's important for us to first of all understand, let's put things into perspective, because we've seen a lot being talked about online on social media platforms concerning this particular issue. And for us to set the stage, it's important for us to understand the current situation on the ground. Your institution carried out a report in 2011. The report was the first of its kind. Sadly, before we went on air, you told me that there was never another one that was done after the 2011, apart from a fact-finding mission by members of parliament in 2013 to just, have a feel of whether what was reported in that report was the truth or not. Let's find a common ground on this particular issue. Those who are talking about it today, are they exaggerating, or sexual corruption is still really existing in Rwanda?
Yeah, thank you, Eugene. I think it still exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, though we are not talking much about it today, but I think it is there as it was in the time that we were doing this research. But the problem is there, people are not reporting about it.
To what level would you say it is there today after the 2011 report?
Okay, I may not say that it increased or decreased, because I can't have any basis to say that, but to the time when we did the report, in the private sector, for example, in the private sector, from the people we asked, it was there at the level of 58%. Mm-hmm. Around 58% of the people we asked confirmed that this was a real issue in the private sector, while in the public institutions, it was at the level of 51%.
51%?
Yes.
Public institutions. But yet in the report in 2011, it was perceived that it was more rampant in the private sector.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So it's now high in government, in public institutions, rather?
Public institutions lower.
It's lower?
Yeah, because what we found that time, it's because it is seen more when it comes for recruitment or in the promotion or other advantages that the employees are receiving from their employers. So in the public institutions, you see that there are clear measures for promoting employees
and procurement
and the recruitment of staff. They're really very clear now. But in the private sector, I think
you do what you want to do.
Exactly.
Let's bring in, Arafat here, because she's from the private sector. You are a lady, because the report in 2011 was actually indicating that a majority of the victims, that is 84.5%, were ladies or women. From your own perspective, I mean, what is really leading to this particular form of corruption? What would be the breeding ground for it?
Okay. So first of all, before I answer your question, I need everyone, if you could allow me, define sexual corruption. To me, sexual corruption is a situation where a person in power imposes or asks for sexual favors from a person under him. So the reason why is because leaders feel like they have the playground to themselves, especially in the private sector where no one gets in between. And the fact that there are no measures saying if we are caught doing asking for sexual corruption favor or sexual corruption, this and this will happen. That is not clear. So
it's not clear.
It's not clear.
And then Charity is here to elaborate on that, on whether that is really true or not. Is it really clear or true that it is not really, there's no that particular path where if you are caught doing this, these are the punitive measures that you will face? This is what Arafat is saying.
Thank you very much. I also have to talk about that. For the sake of the public sector, there are clear measures of recruitment and management of human resources. And more to that, there are measures in place. For example, there are laws in place where there are punishment, like in the penal code. Article 637, there is a specific article talking about demanding favors for sex in exchange of a service.
But Arafat says it's not clear.
For the public sector, it is clear. But for the private, because there are no specific and clear procedures of recruitment, and there are no even these audits, private audits for recruitment and all that, and specifically while in recruitment, for the sake of the private, there are some measures in place. For example, the interviews are done in public and while recording it. Therefore, whenever you have a complaint over it, you can easily analyze critically. But
is this what you meant?
No, I would like to challenge that, because this gives an excuse to leaders out there to say, because the process is not clear enough, therefore I'll go ahead and promote sexual corruption. But that's not the case. The case is, what kind of leaders do we have, despite private sector or public? Either way, it should not be, we should promote a culture where we understand that it is not only illegal, but unacceptable.
Sure.
Because it affects, gender does not depend on, it does not come with qualities like if I'm female or male, I need to have these qualities. Like if I'm male, I'm good at being creative, innovative. So is a female. And by people coming around and say, for you to get into this position, you need to give me this, is degrading the public's, the whole economy.
Right. So we are still in the process of trying to lay down the foundation. First of all, understanding what's the breeding ground, why is it happening. Arafat says that the legal measures are not that clear. She says, for the public sector, there are measures or a roadmap when it comes to recruitment. But the private sector, most of the time they end up doing what they want, as they wish. You sit in an institution that supports or advises government on legal issues, the Rwanda Law Reform Commission. Would people say that you are sleeping on your job in advising on how to deal with this issue?
Not really. I think something should be clear. When it comes to the penal code,
dealing with corruption, there is no discrimination between private and public.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It handles them equally.
But why are we all mentioning that, in public there's a clear measure of how it is dealt with in terms of the loophole, and the private there's a big loophole because the owners do as they wish because nobody audits them. This is what she was saying earlier.
I think the offenses are provided for and the penalties equally for private and public, but the difference is in public there are more mechanisms to address, to prevent the offenses from happening than in the private
So
sector.
you know this as a
Yes,
Law
yeah,
Reform
yeah,
Commission.
yeah.
So what have you done to help government or to help legal institutions to create or seal that loophole that is there?
The only thing we have to do with private sector is to raise awareness of what is provided for by the Penal Code. We are currently reviewing the Penal Code itself, and what we are trying to do now is to strengthen, to increase the sanctions, and after that to raise awareness to all groups, to the private sector, public, to everywhere.
Increase the sanctions. What does that mean?
Like we currently have, like the article she mentioned, 637, it provides for the offense of demanding for sexual offers. Then there is 638, which provides for and punishes offering.
So two-way.
Two-way, it's two-way.
So the one who's demanding and the one who's offering.
The one who is offering. So when I say strengthening or increasing, the penalty has been between 3 years to 5 years.
If you're caught and if you're guilty, yes.
If you're guilty,
yes.
With a fine of 50,000 to 1 million. But we are looking at increasing it from 3. We think 3 is too light. We are taking the sexual abuse to be something very...
You've said 50,000 to 1 million.
To 1 million.
So you want to increase the fine to
We
what?
want to reduce the gap. You see, it gives the judges a range, a very big range from which one could go for 1 million,
yes.
the other could go for 50,000.
Yes.
So we want to reduce the range and make it 500 at least to 1 million. And increase the sentence at least from 5 to 7 years, so that at least 5 is minimum.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you think that would help deal with this issue?
Increasing the sanction alone doesn't really help the issue. Because even spending 3 years in jail, which is the minimum sentence today, is not something small. Yeah, it's not light. So we are looking, apart from increasing the sanction, to raising awareness, letting people know their obligations, their rights, what will happen to them when they do the offense.
Right. Francine, when you're listening to what we're already talking about right now, when it comes to the issue of the clarity of what consequences are there for those who are perpetrators, vis-a-vis the challenge between dealing with private institutions and public institutions, and she talks of the law, the legal part of it, and the awareness part of it. But this word awareness, some people feel like we are misusing it, like it's sort of an excuse for us to continue having these problems, that we are thinking of increasing awareness, but yet people out there continue to go through this particular crisis or this particular issue. What is your thought on this?
So I think both are important. Increasing awareness is very, very much important because this issue is seen as just common, it's not a big problem for our society. It's not a big issue. So awareness is very much important.
Very much important.
But
are we giving it the weight it deserves?
I don't think
the awareness?
So. No, I think the awareness is very much important on that side. But I want to come back to the mechanisms and the punishment. The mechanisms are lacking in the private sector. There's no really very strict mechanisms for recruitment, for example, as they are in the government. You know, they have put in place in the public institutions. They have put in place where there are videos when the recruitment is there. I don't know whether it is still done.
It is done.
But in the private sector, for example, it's not there. Those kind of mechanisms in the recruitment is not there. Even the performance contracts, they are kind of clear in the public sector, while in the private it's not there. So the mechanisms are not there. Coming back to the punishment now and the law and the provisions of the law, I don't think increasing or reducing is going to solve the problem, because even as you said, even the punishment that are there, if they were at least used as it should, I think we wouldn't have these problems.
So in other words, what you're saying is the punitive measures that are there, we are not really doing them. We're not utilizing them to the full.
Yes, we have a problem of evidences, because the evidences that can be provided are not accepted, and we wonder up to now why.
What kind of evidence cannot be accepted?
For example, if you have messages from your boss, for example, he sent you a message telling you, I want to see you at this time. That is how it starts. It starts by sending you a message.
And if he presented this, it would not be accepted.
It won't be accepted.
Pause for a moment then. Let's bring in my friend Charity here. Is this true, that if someone came with these messages from their boss and they came to report at the Ombudsman's office, this would not be regarded as evidence?
For sure, among the challenges we are having is about even reporting.
No. Let's start first of all. Now I've come to report. I've brought my phone and I have the evidence. Will that be accepted or not as evidence?
It would be or not, depending on even on the text. Because even the boss who is writing the message, he himself is aware that even beyond even your phone, even there are some records elsewhere. So he makes sure that even the message sent is not clear. It is misreading.
What if it is clear? Can it be used in a court of justice?
It is among with other evidences. Even the message alone could not work unless there are other evidences to support it.
So she says this is an obstacle because it's the genesis probably of this whole thing.
Exactly.
And if it is not being accepted, then how many people are we locking out from accessing justice, Arafat? What do you think of that?
By them saying that providing evidence, that is I'm not a, I don't know what they call them.
If you are in a shoe of a victim and you are told that you cannot use that message as
I want
evidence.
everyone to put themselves in the place of the victim. I walk into the ombudsman's office and say, I'm facing sexual corruption.
Yes.
And I show you the text and you say, I'm sorry. That's not evidence enough, sorry. If I go and tell my friend and next day she faces sexual corruption, do we expect her to come and say it? That's one. That's to show that we are the ones, we're not working hard enough to make people report. Two, what happens if I show you the start of something that you know very well is going to lead to sexual corruption, or maybe me being raped, or a victim somewhere? Do you sit back? How do you intervene? I need to know how the law intervenes. And before we go, we jump way ahead to the law. People need to understand that it starts with us. You know, I'll give you a very simple example. I walk into a restaurant with a gentleman, and the waiter says hello to him, and not me. That way, there's already a gender mark. The way we view the world depends on how we color the gender, you know? We lift up the men. That is step by step. The men feel like they're in position and that they can do anything. But if we create a culture where people understand that it's unacceptable and where people disturb the boat, usually we just like to be in our comfort zone and we don't want to actually step out and say something. But if we could break the silence.
So it's about breaking the silence.
Let's
get back to what Gladys was talking about, the issue of the evidence. And she mentions clearly that the SMS alone will not be enough as evidence. But sticking to that issue that Francine raises, that it cannot be used, from the Law Reform Commission, can that be reformed and at least creates a leeway that part of that can also be used as evidence in pinning down a perpetrator of sexual corruption?
From the legal perspective of it, with evidence when it comes to criminal matters, in order for someone to be sentenced, to be judged guilty,
yes,
you have to have evidence that is beyond reasonable doubt. So the issue is one, with a mere text message, that if the perpetrator who wrote that text message pleads guilty, then that's fine. Those are two. There is the text message and that the perpetrator pleads guilty.
Yes.
That's fine. But if he does not, he could say someone else picked my telephone and used it. There is no evidence there beyond reasonable doubt that he committed the crime. And any doubt, it may even be 1 out of 100 doubt, then there is no way you will convict this person.
So this person walks away.
Yes.
I told you to pause for a moment. Now I'm pressing play. Let's continue. What else do you think is also being an obstacle? You've mentioned the issue of use of SMSs, being put aside and being said that this cannot be really enough evidence. What else do you feel in terms of not utilizing the already available legal mechanisms in dealing with sexual corruption?
Me, I'm sticking on that because that is the basis of everything. Where else are you going? You see, these things are happening between two people. Nobody else is there. Where do you expect to find evidences? It's not like other offenses that you find
with fingerprints,
something that is tangible. You are not going to find that. So I think we have to take this issue as really special issue, as we have taken, for example, the gender-based violence. The gender-based violence is like there are some evidences that or testimonies that are accepted, which are not accepted. I think I'm not a lawyer, but I think she will help us to understand how the gender-based violence is treated. The evidences from that the law accept from the gender-based violences, they did it because it was like a special challenge they wanted to deal with. Why can't we take this as also special? Because it goes in the same line, I think. So otherwise, we are not going to find testimonies from people who were there observing, because that is what we are going to take into consideration in the court. Yes. Otherwise, it is a matter of two people. Nobody else is there. Those SMSs, those even the small videos. Yes, I understand. There are some challenges to accept when the offender is defending himself, saying that someone else
recorded me or used my phone.
But then it is not. Why did he use your phone to SMS your employee, not someone else? Why? There should be such kind of questions from the judge.
So you feel there needs to be special attention to this particular issue when it comes to legal or alternative to legally. But 47.3%, I'm sticking to that research or that report from Transparency International in 2011, would not report these cases. 47.3. This is a huge number. Could this be a reason why? Because they feel in the end, I will not really get justice in the end. Why do you think this number doesn't go to report?
I want people to look back to when we started fighting monetary corruption. And I want everyone to remember how much effort was put into fighting monetary corruption. Now, I do not see why we are so comfortable saying that we don't have ways to intervene, we don't have ways to go ahead and go in between the perpetrator and the victim. There are very many ways. We just need to be willing to be creative. I'm sure the Rwanda National Police is willing to help. But the fact that we keep saying the evidence is not enough, there's nothing we can do, makes me feel like I question if we had the audacity to fight monetary corruption, why not the same power and anger and hope in fighting sexual corruption? Because honestly speaking, it affects a lot of people.
Sure.
It demoralizes a lot of female. And let's not even start talking about how much it affects the economy.
Yeah, that's your point. But this 47.3, not wanting to come and report, probably it's important for you to talk to us. Those who have come to report to you, could you tell us the success rate of those cases? Those people who have come to report, this has been the result. You know, we investigated, or we, in collaboration with the police, investigated, and 100 of them or 20 of them were found guilty and they are now in jail or have they finished serving their term.
Thank you very much. I also have something to talk on this. Specifically with our office, we have a focal person who deals with these cases of gender-based corruption.
When was this department created?
Around 2010.
2010
yeah.
to 2016. What has been done with that particular office?
And even beyond the Office of Ombudsman,
yes.
It is even mandatory for public institutions to have a focal person on this endeavor. Therefore, whenever some individuals report to us, as she has been discussing or hearing out, whenever an individual or complainant reports to us, we can, that would be probably between an employee and employer. We can even monitor. We can even monitor. Beyond the SMS and whatever, we can even monitor. Because the SMS themselves cannot be evidence beyond doubt, as my fellow has been talking. But with monitoring, for example, if there is a certain organization working in Remera, and then you find, like in Gitarama, you find that very employer and employee in the hotel. You, as she has been mentioning, just an SMS is not enough in law. Then you can even monitor that, and even you can even prevent the real act.
Right. So this is sort of like the perception or the theory of what you can do.
Yes.
Let's talk of what you have been able to do from 2010 with this focal point representatives or institutions at the Ombudsman's office in dealing specifically with sexual corruption.
Thank you very much. As my colleague Francine has been mentioning,
yes.
There are very many reasons of not reporting this kind of corruption because of different reasons. One, as we have been mentioning, there is lack of evidence. Secondly, fear of stigma.
Yes.
Some people have been not reporting, not because they are not victims, but not just to fear of being what the society will say.
So let's talk of those who have reported. We're saying those who are not reporting. What of those who have reported? How many cases have you received so far at the Ombudsman's office?
So far, the recent cases we have received were 4.
4 cases?
Yes.
Since 2010?
Yes.
Or this year or last year?
Yeah.
Since when?
Since 2010.
Since 2010, only 4 cases?
Only 4.
4 cases?
Yes.
And what has happened in these 4 cases?
And in most cases, for those specific cases, you find a complainant reporting, then you promise each and everything, and even you promise him or her to protect. But whenever you start the monitoring and whatever, sometimes he or she disappears.
They disappear.
Yes.
So these 4, what has happened to them? Have they gotten justice? Or the cases just
during
died
the
out?
Investigations and monitoring of of gathering the evidence, you find that they disappeared during the process.
Right.
So
they just disappear in thin air.
For sure.
Right. So we're going to come back.
I
just
think
hold that thought. Hold that thought.
I wanted to add on that one.
Yes.
I think we are getting now to sexual harassment. For sexual harassment to amount to that, it won't be just a mere message once. So if my boss sends a message to me once,
Yes.
and I report that one, and they monitor, and he sends a second one, a third one, a fourth one. If they are monitoring, they could come up, it could be evidence of so many SMSs sent by the same person to me.
But do you think that is happening?
I think that's what she was saying.
That is what's happening?
I report once, when they start monitoring, I disappear.
Then they disappear. But she says only four cases
Have
from
reported to the
2010.
ombudsman.
Right. So when we come
an
back,
issue.
we'll be going deeper into this particular conversation. Keep tweeting us. Of course, when we return, I'll be reading some of your tweets and messages on Facebook. Just go on my wall, Eugene Anangwe, and leave a comment there, or on Twitter at Debate411 or at Eugene Anangwe. The hashtag is End Sexual Corruption RW. It's a long one. If it's too long for you, use the hashtag Debate411. And when we come, we'll be sampling more of those particular comments. Do stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
Good news from the largest private university in the East African region, Mount Kenya University. We have reduced fees for undergraduates who want to pursue courses in business, travel and tourism, information sciences or IT, and social science related programs. We are also giving our alumni and bachelor students wishing to pursue master's programs a 10% fees discount. Our programs are modularized in line with Rwanda National Qualifications Framework. Mount Kenya University. My university, my pride, my future. My affordable education.
When we're talking about real reforms, we are also being realistic. Baongaho, get out of here.
Debate 411 is not just about starting conversations.
Sometimes it's important to criticize, but as a Rwandan, because that's my starting point, I also feel that when I criticize, I should point to a way out.
But creating a platform where those conversations can be moved forward.
And then I look at the man and I say, wait a minute, we have badges here, we're on duty. What's going on? I said, get out of here.
We had a bad past, which some people have. We have a very good present.
The few guys who are there to produce have never been broadcasting anything and get paid for it.
They want to copy concepts that have already been done somewhere else and just flip it into Kinyarwanda, and they call it local.
It's about accountability.
It's not about what the government does only. It's also about the response that people give. This environment is about how people take advantage of it.
It gets up close and personal.
Arnold is coming to watch a match of football in halftime. How will he going to report that match?
Debate 411 with me, Eugene Anangwe, at these times on Rwanda Television.
This is an EA production.
Debate 411 is proudly brought to you by Mount Kenya University School of Journalism. Success in journalism starts here. Mount Kenya University. My university, my pride, my future, my affordable education.
Right, thank you so much for making time and being with us right here on Debate 411. We're here Mondays and Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Mark that. And of course, the repeat is the following days at 1:30 p.m. And definitely we talk about various issues that affect you and we move conversations forward. My name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. Today we're talking about the issue of sexual corruption, and the hashtag we're using is End Sexual Corruption RW. And let me just sample some of the comments that have been coming through when we've been talking right here. We have one here that it's from Lucy Mbabazi, and she says, I'm with Arafat. There can never be evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. Human resource policies must be clear on what the victim does. Do you agree with that? That you can never have evidence in this particular situation, beyond reasonable doubt. So we need policies that are clearer on what the victim does. This is what she says. Tamon says evidence of sexual corruption is less tangible. The legal framework must accommodate this.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you agree with that, Judith?
We could look at that.
You could look at that.
We are flexible.
Flexible on this serious issue.
Yes, I mean, as Law Reform Commission,
yes,
we receive comments, we receive suggestions, we receive inputs in laws, we look at situations. So we look at all that, and we could come up with something to change, to deal with the issue.
Of evidence being tangible.
Yeah.
So today, from the time we started talking, what do you feel in your own perception from what people have been saying that needs to be, reformed? Just before Francine comes in.
Maybe this would not be the penal code. We are currently looking at the penal code. This could go with the law of evidence. Probably we could look at the law of evidence, as she mentioned, what was provided for gender-based violence. And if we can really find out exactly, we have to research that, we have to use that statistics they have. So the laws are there to address issues in society. Okay?
Right.
So if our laws are not tough enough to address serious issues
then they need reforms.
They need reform.
So you accept that something has to be done on this one. How long does it take to reform this? If you to go back to report to your bosses or to the people you report to, how long would it take to reform this, if it was to be reformed?
With laws, specifically with the gender-based violence law, it was a law initiated by Parliament. When it's that, it's easy. It could take a shorter period. But with this specific issue, if I was to go back, tell my boss, you see, we have to reform this, we have to involve stakeholders.
We have to involve stakeholders.
Yeah.
And as we involve the stakeholders, this means there's time that is being eaten in.
We have to
as someone continues to go through this particular process. What would be your suggestion? What would be your recommendation in dealing with this in terms of quickly reforming laws that are not performing to help certain situations, respond to situations?
Yeah, I would like really to suggest that the Minister of Justice do a small research as we did to find out what is happening in the society. If the laws are there to protect the society, then the society is not protected in this issue for now. So the Minister of Justice cannot wait to know what the Ombudsman is getting as report, or Transparency is getting as report. Just sit back and rest, because they have been asking us, how many cases have you received so far? We have received very few. Ombudsman has received only 4. I think we have received 10 or 12 up to now. So I think it is good, but if you work with the parliamentarians, if you go and ask them what we found on the ground when we went there, if you can hear that lady, what she's saying, I think you would go out, do your own research, go in schools, go in the private sector, meet with young ladies, meet with young students in the university, everywhere.
So they need to do an independent research for themselves and then come and
then you come up, then you come up with something that would help to change.
Why are you not doing this? Why do you seem to be folding your arms and saying, we're waiting for the Ombudsman's office, the Transparency International?
When we say we involve stakeholders, it's not like we are lying back and saying we have to hear what the Ombudsman will say, and that's what we shall follow.
So what are you saying exactly?
No, if we are, I don't see a need why the Law Reform Commission would carry out its own research. Then after the research, Ministry of Gender and what will say, no, for us the research we did found out this. Instead, we get them on board. And we do it. It doesn't have to take so long, but we get all the concerned parties on board and we do it at once, so that once it's done, we don't get other parties on the side saying, no, you didn't find this, you should have involved us, you would have come up with something more than this.
So you're waiting for them to accept to come on board, or you can take the initiative?
No, we don't wait for them to come on board. Yes. We involve them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you involve them. The fact that there's very little research on this issue of sexual corruption, the last research that we are pegging on in this conversation is the 2011 research by Transparency International. Does it worry you? Because the fact that even this form of corruption is the least talked about or the least focused on every time we're either doing corruption perception indexes and all that kind of a thing, does it worry you as a young lady out there that we are not giving it the full attention it deserves, and so that we can solve the problems that underlie or lie there within?
To be honest, it more than worries me, because when you analyze every time the topic is brought up, you can see discomfort in people. They just do not want to approach it. But in the meantime, I acknowledge that the government is doing all it can to approach it, but we kind of forget the upcoming leaders, the students.
Yes.
They are the leaders of tomorrow. What are we doing with them? And it's really sad they themselves don't know what sexual corruption is. They only know about monetary corruption. They know how to fight it. They're very zealous about it. But it worries me that they do not know what sexual corruption is, and they do not know how to actually fight it. And it kind of worries me too that the victims don't know what steps to go through. I've been sexually assaulted, or I've faced sexual corruption.
Or I know someone who's gone through that and I want us to help the person.
Who do I talk to?
How do we deal with that, and how are you dealing with that? Because earlier on I had asked you about the numbers. You told me only 4 from 2010. If we go by numbers, then someone might say, everything is fine. If only 4 reported from 2010, then why are we even talking about this issue? But then, what is stopping you from going all out on a mass campaign to create awareness on this issue? Is it finances? Is it resources? What is it?
Not really.
Yes.
Thank you very much for this. For the case of the Office of Ombudsman in particular,
yes,
we do sensitization of different categories of people, including students, including public employees, including even public. We even have some MOU in dealing with those issues. So with our sensitization, we even deal with different categories of people. We specifically explain their rights. In the case of reporting, we even inform them about the whistleblower law in place, the protection and whatever, the confidentiality of the reporting they do. So as long as to encourage them to report, because reporting has been a very big problem in this specific matter. Therefore, by sensitization, by teaching them their rights, by encouraging them to report. Even the employees, they don't. And what is more worrying, sometimes they report when you can hardly even get evidence, for instance.
But it is your responsibility to avoid that.
For sure. But
how are you avoiding that?
By even when you sensitize people, when we raise awareness, we believe much that they will report to us.
Alfred seems to be worried about what you're saying. Yes.
What's happening here is we have removed the perpetrator out of the topic. He's basically standing at the back. But he's a leader, and he has violated his responsibilities as a leader.
Yes.
We, as a nation, what do we do about him?
Yes.
Thank you very much, please. On that even I have a specific response. For the sake of readers, specifically for the government, these high officials, they have a code of conduct. Code of conduct, there are specific conduct they need to behave.
But conduct are violated.
Whenever,
you know, this is what we're talking about. She's saying this particular boss of this institution, whether in government or whether in private, has violated one of their employee because of their position, taking advantage of them. So what do we do with that particular person?
Thank you very much. On that, yes. Whenever you violate this code of conduct, there are also punishment in relation with the violated code of conduct. Mm-hmm. Whenever you violate it, you are taken to courts of law. Therefore, the government is not reluctant on that subject matter.
Right.
For the sake of this code of conduct, yes. It deals with these high government officials, and they are not left to be reluctant.
Yeah. Someone here is asking on Twitter, how do you monitor? What's the evidentiality threshold? Should it be beyond a reasonable doubt? You know, when you said earlier on that you do monitoring, how do you monitor whether it is the initiatives that you come up with? This is not just for you, even to the Rwanda Law Reform Commission. Mm-hmm. Just monitoring and ensuring that those suggestions you made on the reforms you made are actually working for people or not. How do you do this monitoring, and how do you come out and say, actually it's working or not?
Thank you very much. For example, I can give a relevant example. For example, when it is between a teacher and a student, mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that the act must happen, but you can even monitor. For instance, if the teacher and the student has left the school, yes. You find them in a specific hotel. You don't have to wait for the act to happen, because even you have that role of preventing it, but you can even reason the place they are in. For example, if you're a teacher and a student, what are you doing in a hotel and a specific room? Mm-hmm. Those are among the evidence that you can rely on beyond the other ones we are talking about, the SMS and whatever.
Beyond the SMSs.
Yes.
There's an argument that has also been going around that we've sort of put the blame on the employers, or every time we talk of sexual corruption, it's always about the boss. But, you know, some people have argued and said even we have those who are seeking employment, mm-hmm. who lead these potential employers to doing this. And so they sort of make it something that, you know, if I do it, then I'll be able to get this job because I want it so badly. If we were to also discuss about that for a short while, not you, but let's start first with Jill, because at least this side has been speaking for all this time. Mm-hmm. How do we deal with this? You know, where the expected victim becomes the perpetrator. You know, that person seeking employment leads on this potential employer.
I think the legal framework itself addresses that, mm-hmm. where we found both punished. Even that one offering the sexual whatever for any service, mm-hmm. is liable, equally liable as the person who demands. That's one. The legal framework is clear. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you say it's clear, how many people probably can we talk of today, if you did monitoring and evaluation, that have found themselves on the hook for having done this? You're looking at her so much. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, because on that part, I don't think Law Reform Commission is the
best.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you very much. On that note, as mentioned earlier, sincerely speaking, reporting this kind of crime, this gender-based corruption, is something very delicate and very confidential. In most cases, at the beginning, the two parties have interest in it. Mm-hmm. You get me right? Mm-hmm. And in most cases, mm-hmm. or in rare cases in this particular moment, yes. the victim yes. tends to report when it is too late to find evidence. When, for example, she or he has got some challenges during the course. Maybe the boss is fed up on you. He or she starts to get away of you. Then that is the very time
that they come
you remember to report, when you can hardly even get evidence. And beyond that, even in private entities, for example, when somebody has a hotel or a bar, you employ a young girl, and during the course she's employed for the sake of that very interest. And after sometimes, like after 5 years, when she has even started incurring permanent disability. For example, when they arrive, during the time when they are RIs, anyway, and after 5 years, she comes to report when she has even started feeling the consequences, and even at the same time,
so would you
they
throw
get
that away?
Permanent,
yes.
They get even permanent disability.
Yes.
For example.
So would you still throw that away and say,
no,
because
we
you
get
didn't come
it.
to report early, then...
No, for sure we don't. We receive it, and we even advise him or her, depending on the case. But for sure, and to be sincere to you, you can hardly get evidence after 10 or 5 years to convict that very person.
Right.
But you see, in that case, the problem is like both are
interested.
Both have problems.
Yes.
Because the other one would be punished as well. So when she comes to report at that late time when she has been involved, she's also punishable.
Yes.
That is, and when she comes to report, whether she reports to us, for example, we advise her that though she came to report, we have seen that act happened, but the problem is that she was also involved. Then she will also be endure some punishment.
Some punishments along that.
Yes.
We have just a few minutes to go, but let's now talk solutions, because we know the problem exists. We know the challenge of reporting is there. People rarely report, and probably those who report sometimes, end up just giving up probably along the way. I'm not so sure about that, but we know that reporting is an issue. Where do we go from here? From the Rwanda Law Reform Commission, what are you promising that person watching us today? And they feel that they've been part of this problem, and you want to give them hope that the law is there to protect them, and they need to use that law that is there to protect them. What would you tell them?
I think I told you at the beginning what we are doing with the penal code, reviewing the penal code to strengthen, to increase punishment.
Yes.
But that alone we know is not enough. What we aim at, what we think could be more successful, what could bring more results, is creating awareness. These young ladies, gentlemen who are facing this issue, to come up.
So tell me how you will create that awareness, because this is a question I'll ask everybody here. How will you do that? How will you play that role?
At the Law Reform Commission, we do awareness through, I think even this show itself.
But I had to call you.
We do the same. Like we currently have a legal awareness team. It's currently moving around the country. So from here, we are going to take this.
Okay.
The sexual corruption issue itself.
Yes.
I'll hand it to the legal awareness team. They will move around. They move around.
So you expect to see your
schools.
team out there.
Exactly.
Awesome. Francine, where do we go from here? What do we do? I mean, we need to end this thing once and for all.
Awareness is good, but it has to touch not only those who are supposed to be victims, but also the perpetrators. Because I think they're the ones who are, even if they are part of the people who are victim, who comes first to propose their bosses.
Yes.
But I think the awareness should also as well go on the side of the bosses, because they are the one who brings the things. But also, I think we would really request the Minister of Justice to look into there are someone who said the law should be flexible in this issue.
Yes.
I think the Minister of Justice should kind of review some laws to make them flexible when it comes to reporting and providing evidences.
Yes.
Because I think, as she said, when I come to report with my evidence that I think are genuine, and you tell me that I can't based on this to
and
give you
that's
justice,
the only evidence you have.
then I won't come back. Even
Yes.
if I tell it to my colleague who have got the same problem, she's not coming. So I think these are the things that are stopping victims to report.
Right.
So the law should be flexible.
Quick, very good takeaway there, that the awareness has also to be done to the bosses, the perpetrators, or the potential perpetrators. So we need to also go to these offices or call them for seminars and talk to them about the issue. Make them know that these are the punitive measures, that if you are to be found guilty, so we don't only focus on one end. Arafat, what would be your takeaway? How do we go, or what do we go from here?
I need people to understand that culture does not make people, but people make the culture. If we create a culture where it is unacceptable, and I say this because we have done it once with monetary corruption, why not sexual corruption? So we can basically do it again.
Example, 3 ways of how we can do this for those who probably don't know how we dealt with monetary corruption.
I'll say it and I'll say it again tomorrow. I need students. I need the tomorrow leaders involved in this. I need them aware. I need the government to intervene. I mean, it's one thing for the government to make decisions, but they need to connect with the with the mass population. How are they involving them? The other point is there's always ways to get evidence. I mean, this might sound funny, but I can always bug myself, you know,
So
and
you
go
to
in
bug,
and I know it's a trap, but you can always use that. I mean, wherever there's a will, there's a way.
We have a legal expert. Can that be used as evidence? It can? Okay, for those who can afford, let's go walk with cameras and microphones and recorders.
Definitely.
Awesome. What about you? Where do we go from here? Someone was asking about the issue of reporting secretly. How do they report secretly to the Ombudsman's office if they want to report?
As mentioned earlier, I informed you that there is a specific person entitled to deal with those cases.
Yes.
In fact, apart from the whistleblower law, we have the responsibility to keep the information confidential.
Confidential. So if someone has a phone and they want to report, I saw you have a toll-free number. So what is the number?
It is 199.
Does it work 24 hours, 24/7?
Yes.
Because someone tweeted and said it doesn't work. I mean, it's sometimes off.
But there is also another number for that specific person, which is always on, apart from that one.
Which one is that?
It is 07-88-43-2516.
Right. So in most cases, the toll-free would be found on or off.
It might be busy because it deals with other also cases of injustice and other corruption-related offenses.
Right. Because I wanted just to test and see if it is there or not. Just to be sure, because these are some of the things that people say it is stopping me from reporting because I don't have the avenues to report. So
we have in transparency they can also report. We have a toll free 2641.
2641.
But you as in the working hours 2641, but you can send an SMS even if it is beyond the hours of service.
And someone will deal with that.
Yes, and then we have our website. When you go to the website, you find a form where you can fill your complaint and submit it. So we have different ways of reporting. We have, that one is like anonymous reporting. Can even not take
Nobody reports on that. Nobody says that. Thank you so much. I'm being told we're out of time completely, but it's a conversation we really would love to have going on. It's definitely still going on online. On Twitter, we have Julian who says, I'm curious to know how deep Rwanda Ombudsman monitors this issue, being in Kigali. Of course, so many of them have been coming through. We have TI Rwanda has centers in all provinces, Eastern, Kayonza, headquarters, and such cases can be reported so that they can be fought. So many of them, keep them coming. Of course, I'm hoping that you'll also join them online. There are so many people on Twitter and Facebook who are talking about this issue. Let's respond. Let's talk to them. Let's answer them so that we deal with this thing once and for all, right? Thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Right. It was an all-ladies panel. Thank you so much for joining us and, of course, for talking about this issue. It doesn't end here. It has to go on. Let's talk about this issue. Let's find possible solutions to them, homegrown solutions. How can we deal with the issue of ending sexual corruption in Rwanda? Looking forward to reading more of those tweets at Debate411, at Eugene and Nangwe. The hashtags are on your screen. We'll see you again next time. I'm Eugene and Nangwe, signing off.
Debate 411 is proudly brought to you by Mount Kenya University School of Journalism. Success in journalism starts here. Enroll for Master of Arts in Communication and Mass Media, Bachelor of Arts in Mass Media and Communication, Diploma in Journalism. Take advantage of fees reduction and modularized programs in line with Rwanda National Qualification Framework. Call 0787 05 2363 or 0788 979113 or 0728 551199 or visit our website www.mku.ac.ke.